Hello everyone, welcome to another Josekis lesson. In this video, let's talk about number 10 right here, which is a relatively peaceful way to proceed. This is actually one of the recommended moves I made to beginners as white in this situation. So when you're faced with your opponent's 3-3 invasion, don't be nervous, right? Block from one side, extend once, and if your opponent plays this move, just extend again. And I haven't really talked about this in detail, so let's dive into it a little bit in this video. It's not that complicated. So the idea here is to be as solid as possible from white's perspective. So it is a very solid move, totally fine. AI doesn't score this as well as this Hane, but for beginners and most amateur players, this is perfectly fine. If you're tired of worrying about what happens after your opponent invades at the 3-3 point, number 10 is a very good choice. When you have 4 stones lined up like this, it is very strong. It is very hard to be short on liberties if you have 4 stones like this, and you're staying on top on the 4th line. It is a very solid shape. It is not as efficient, but it is very solid. And it will be very hard for black to attack this white group when you have 4 stones. Whereas, if we get to this and white takes Sente, then in the future, if white keeps ignoring it, black will be able to eventually attack this group. But if you proceed with this extension, black most likely will not be able to attack. So that is why this is very much recommended for beginners. So what does black do in this situation? As I mentioned, crawling on the 3rd line is not the right way for black to proceed, because trading your moves on the 3rd line for moves on the 4th line is never a good idea for black in this situation. So there are really 2 options. One is this knight move on the 2nd line. Very solid move, and is probably the best move, right? Very solid and very peaceful as well. Black takes a corner, and white is not really afraid of an attack. Another move is right here, crawling. And this is semi-forcing, most likely forcing in this situation. White will need to extend again and play the Hane. We'll get to it in a bit. But let's cover a wrong move, and that is this jump. If you jump, then white can push, black blocks here, and black still has this weakness, right? 2 cutting points, and these 3 stones are still short on liberties. So after white cuts here, black is in trouble. And the best black can do in this situation is actually to play on the outside to take care of this cutting point. And of course, white can play at number 16, threatening to cut off these 3 stones. 17 defends, number 18 Atari, and number 19 connects. And white benefits from all these exchanges because white preserves the option to take away the territory and eye space from the corner. But in this situation, when the board is empty, saving the corner here at number 20 is not that big. So it is better for white to play anywhere else, right? All these big moves that white can consider. Locally, after all these exchanges, white already has a slight advantage. So that is why number 11 doesn't work, because black still has this weakness. And in comparison, this is much better. Right. Again, whites can never push. Pushing against this knight's move is always a bad idea, terrible idea. Never play number 12. And unlike some of the Josekis we saw earlier, this attachment doesn't exist because black is not short on liberties after playing these 4 stones, right? There's nothing white can do. Compare this to this knight's move, where black is short on liberties, right? That is why number 12, this attachment exists. But if you add 1 more stone, this attachment no longer exists. Even if you add a Hane here, doesn't really help. Right? Doesn't really help with the liberties. And that's why number 11 is a good move, and this really settles the shape. This can be considered a Joseki for sure. And white should play away at this point. If you're a beginner amateur player, the left side is open. You should add a move here. If you're more advanced, you should consider playing on the corners. the 3-3 invasion, of course. And what about follow-up moves? For black, if white takes sente, the next move for black is actually right here on the 4th line. So it is no longer on the 3rd line because black doesn't have this weakness at number 14. Black is able to get on the 4th line. So number 13 right here on the 4th line is how black follows up number 11. And of course, both sides can kind of vie for influence here toward the center. Next, let's talk about number 11 right here. Keep crawling. Not that great in this situation when the board is empty. But I think what black is trying to do is to get sente. But of course, white has 2 choices. One is to keep extending. Slightly worse in this situation because black can take sente. And in this situation, of course, when the board is empty, sente is very, very, very important. But again, white is super solid and white has this bend, really, really big. Number 14 is really, really big because after number 14, white can build on the upper side all of a sudden. And if black ignores it, then whites can come here and try to build on the upper side as well as the left side. But number 14 is still not sente. White still cannot kill black at this point, but all of these moves are very big, right? It's a big endgame move that threatens to kill black. And this is probably black's best bet to stay alive, right? So, and white is extremely solid on the outside. So it's probably worth it for white to play 2 extra moves, right? 12 and 14 to get to this result. So it is worth it. But what black gets, of course, is sente. It really depends on what you prefer in this situation. Another thing for white to consider is this hane. Black must play here on the 2nd line. White extends, and once again, black cannot really take sente because number 16 is too valuable. And after number 15, white can actually take sente. So this is one way for white to win sente in this situation. And of course, 17 and 19, the hane and double hane, are very, very big. Right? These are very, very big moves. And this is how both sides can try to build. It's moyo, white on the left side, and black on the upper right. And this might evolve into a fight. So it should be fun. But the point is that after number 15, the upper side is no longer that big. It's no longer that big. You're already almost at the start point, almost at the midway point. So extending here, or jumping here, is no longer as big as taking sente in this situation. So it is something for white to consider. If you really want sente, after number 11, play the hane. If you want to stay in a solid shape, then just keep extending. And that's it. I covered the basics of all the variations after number 10, which is highly, highly recommended for beginners as white in this situation. Because if you're afraid of all the complications, just keep extending and you'll be fine. And in this situation, of course, the basic Joseki is for black to play the knight's move on the 2nd line, and white can take sente very comfortably elsewhere on the board. As always, if you have any questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Good luck, and thank you for watching.